Hi, in this lecture we are going to talk about these two cryptic acronyms, LFI and RFI. They stand for local file inclusion and remote file inclusion. So file inclusion is like importing or loading a library. In PHP you can include the file in another PHP file, and with that basically taking the content of the included file and putting it into the original file. There are various reasons to do that. One is to structure your applications. For instance, you could have like separate PHP files for header and footer, and then in the main file you just include these so you don't have to repeat them. You can use them in every file. Or you can also use it like libraries, that you implement helper functions in a separate file, and then you just include it everywhere where you want to use these functions. For instance, if we log on to the target machine with SSH, and go to the root folder of the application. So if we go to VP admin and then, for instance, open the user edit.php, the color is not too good, and then search for include, then you could see that this include takes the content of the admin header.php file and inserts it here. That means that whatever is in the admin headers PHP file, that will be included at this point of this file. And at the end, you could see that the admin footer is also included. This is exactly the example what I said, that there is a separate admin header and a separate admin footer, which can be included in any other files. That will give us all the content on the admin page, which is the header and the footer. So like this one, that's the footer. So the application is vulnerable to file inclusion if the attacker can somehow manipulate which file gets included in the website. So let's go to the main page. Here you are. And let's look at the source code. During your application discovery of this application, you have probably seen something weird, that there is a comment here which says, fix me, remove the debug param before going to production. So it's in production and we don't know what this debug param really is, but it's a good idea to start experimenting with it. So first, let's hope that it is just a simple get parameter, debug param equals test. Let's see what happens. Nothing specific. Let's try whether file inclusion works. There is a readme HTML in every WordPress installation here at the root folder, readme.html. Let's try to include it here. Okay, that looks good. It seems a bit broken. It's because we actually took the content of the readme HTML and inserted it somewhere at the beginning of the home page. And that kind of break the design of the home page. But that basically means that we have a local file inclusion for sure. But what can you do with that? For instance, you can start extracting data from the server. Like if we say we do a little path traversal and step back until the root folder, I just input like a lot of step backs so that we at some point arrive to the root of the file system. And then from there we say etc passvd to download the passvd file. And it's really good. You could see that the passvd file was included. So what happens, we were in this folder, and here we went back a lot, and then etc passvd. And then, for instance, if we say cut, then we get the same response. So this is the content of the file, and this was included in this web page because of the file inclusion. So probably what happens is that this debug param is used in a include function, and it includes whatever is specified in this parameter. So this is already a way to steal data from the server, because you can access all those files which the web server's user have access to. But it would be better to get shell access as before. We could do the same thing what we did in the previous lecture, to upload a shell and then load the shell locally from here. So basically give the path to that PHP file here. But what's even better is if we can do a remote file include. That would mean that we are not including file from the local file system, but we are downloading a file from somewhere from the internet and using that in our PHP code. Let's try that. To do that, first we have to actually have a file somewhere what we want to download. So we are going to do this on our Kali machine. So go to your Kali and go to the user share web shells PHP, where we had our shell before, and copy the simple PHP backdoor to the root of Apache, which is under /var www/html, and we will just call the file backdoor.php. Yes, now if you check your IP address, it's here, and then we load it in the browser, and we ask for the backdoor.php. Then we get access to this backdoor file. But the problem is that it's a PHP file, and our own Apache is interpreting that as a PHP file. Be careful, because now with that you're actually opening a backdoor on your own machine. But we want to do something else, because we actually need the source code content of this file. So we have to tell our web server not to interpret or not to execute the file when somebody's loading it. To do that, first go to the web root. And here we are going to create a file called .htaccess. htaccess is a Apache configuration file where you can extend the main Apache config with additional configuration, but on a folder basis. So wherever this file is, that means that adds a new configuration to that folder and all subfolders. So what I want to do is say PHP flag engine off. This will tell the web server to turn the PHP engine off. And we save it. But we still need to tell the Apache to check these htaccess files. We can do that in the etc apache2.conf. So open that file and scroll down. These are all just comments. And what's important for us is that this is the configuration for the directory where our web root is. At this line, the allow override tells whether .htaccess files are allowed or not. So we have to change that from none to all. And then reload the web server. So service Apache to restart. Yes, and I go back to the browser and load the backdoor PHP again. And it doesn't look too good, but if we open the source code, you could see that instead of interpreting it as PHP code, it was just served as a file. So that means that now we can download it and include it in the other application. So if we go back here, that means that here, as the include parameter, instead of a file name, we'll say the whole URL. So http / and then the IP address of the Kali machine, and backdoor.php, enter. Okay, you see that it works because we got this usage info here, which is in the backdoor PHP. Now to actually use the backdoor, we just add the other parameter with an end, and then cmd is ID. And you could see that now the ID command was executed on the server. So basically, with that, we got a remote command execution on the server again. So we have shell access again. So the good part with the remote file inclusion is that we don't need rights to upload files. So with the local file inclusion, although we could still get shell access, we can only do that if we actually have a user to log in to be able to upload PHP file. However, with the remote file inclusion, we don't have to upload this file. So basically anybody who has access to this main page can do the shell access. This is just increasing the risk of the vulnerability. Although this seems like a pretty PHP specific problem, but it can happen in any other languages where there is a possibility of file inclusion. To fix this problem, you either don't use user supplied data in file includes, or you make sure that this input data is really well validated before passing it to the include function. Also, against the remote file inclusion, you can configure PHP not to allow external includes. That's actually the default configuration of PHP. As an exercise, I recommend you to check the source code of the person of interest and try to find the vulnerable part. A good starting point would be to search for this comment in the source code, and wherever this comment is, you will find the vulnerable code. So look at it, try to understand how it really worked, and when you are ready, I will see you in the next lecture. So take care and bye.